Deputy Adams, 4
minutes.
minutes.
The last Concoil agus Nílian Rod person on Ira, but agus last Concoil Fastback Tommy me Hastanach will and Ira a Féin on and Ked Shakaichin or Cormain or the topical issue Gumsa Nero and Ira on again or Shin Fast August we made Cancher and Abershaw Fast and Shin. Minister, you might know this, but there are no child and adolescent mental health services in North Louth. Shinné. Children who need CAMS have to travel to Drogheda for services. Despite the best efforts of the staff at Ladywell Day Centre in Dundalk, it's impossible to deliver proper, effective community mental health services from a facility which is old and decrepit and unfit for purpose. I've been raising this issue and my concerns consistently for years. A new primary day centre for Dundalk was first announced in 2008 when the HSE advertised for expressions of interest to develop a centre. Over 10 years later, not a brick has been laid. Information from the HSE, the Department of Health and the Minister has been contradictory, confused and conflicting. In November 2016, I was advised in response to a parliamentary question that it was hoped that the operational lease process for the primary care centre would be completed in the first quarter of 2017. In August 2018, I was told that the planning application would be submitted by the end of 2018, that work would commence in 2019 and the centre would be open early in 2020. In May this year, in response to another topical issue from me, Minister Phelan announced that Louth Meath Mental Health Services are currently looking for a new town centre location in Dundalk with a view to providing improved CAMS to North Louth. The HSE is hopeful that this will come on stream towards the end of the year. And that was news to everyone. It's also the last anyone heard of it. When I queried this information, I was told last week in a letter from David Wells, the National Director of Community Operations, that disability services are now seeking space in the primary care centre. There was no mention of the town centre location, and while I welcome and would welcome disability services being in a primary care centre, why was this not part of the original plan? I was also told that this new development has resulted in a requirement to review the project. This has resulted in a delay, and that the new updated proposal will require additional approval from the HSE Property Resource Group, and that the additional space that is now considered is to be required. Last Friday, 2 years later, I received a letter from Minister Harris, which states that the preferred provider was identified and a letter of intent issued last August. The Minister repeats that the Dundalk Primary Care Centre is at design stage. However, he makes no mention of the disability services now being part of the proposed centre, nor does he mention the need to review the project, nor does he mention that the project will be delayed. It would appear that Minister Harris does not know what is happening with the Dundalk Primary Care Centre. Incompetence, Minister, has been the mark of this government, and such incompetence leaves the most vulnerable in our society behind. The lack of child and adolescent mental health services for the young people of North Louth is totally unacceptable, and so is the way the government has failed to address the need for a primary care centre for North Louth and for Dundalk. So can the Minister clarify the current timeline for the design stage of the Dundalk Primary Care Centre? How long will the review take? What are the cost implications? Is a new letter of intent required? Does this mean there will be a new process? And so on. And finally, when will construction commence, and what is the expected opening date now for Dundalk Primary Care Centre?
Dara has 4 minutes.
Thanks, Laskin Chorley. And again, on behalf of Minister House, I'd like to thank Deputy Adams for raising this issue and providing an opportunity for further clarification. I understand that the issue here is that you believe that the information provided in direct reply from the HSE to a parliamentary question from your colleague Deputy Louise O'Reilly, question number 170 or on the 23rd of January 2019 conflicts with a response provided to you by the HSE in reply to permit question number 1817 on 24th of July 2018 concerning the development of the centre in Dundalk. I am informed that the HSE replied to you directly on this matter in a letter dated the 12th of June in response to the PQ you tabled on the 16th of April. I also understand that following the submission of representation, Minister Harris has sought clarification on the matter and that he responded directly to you on the 14th of June. As the Deputy may be aware, the HSE has responsibility for both the provision and the maintenance of operations of primary care centres and other primary care facilities. The HSE response to original PQ in July 2018 outlined that under the operational lease mechanism, the HSE had identified a preferred provision for the provision of the centre in Dundalk. The HSE estate has issued a letter of intent to the successful applicant, and initial meetings have taken place to progress the design layout. At the time, it was intended that the work would commence in 2019, subject to planning permission, with an expected open date in early 2020. The confusion has arisen following the PQ submitted by Deputy O'Reilly in January of this year, which sought information on the number of operational and planned primary care centres across the country. In the response provided by the HSE, Dundalk Primary Care Centre was not included in the under construction or advanced planning appendix. The reason for this apparent discrepancy is that the circumstances had changed regarding the development of the Dundalk Primary Care Centre. The HSE has advised that subsequently to the reply, your PQ from July 28 and Disability Service Division advocates strong for space in the Primary Care Centre. This means that the project has to be reviewed, and as such it is categorised as being in the design phase and does not meet the requirements to be included in the advanced planning category. Hence, the centre was not included in the list issued by Deputy O'Reilly in response to the PQ asked in January 2019, as the list included only centres which are under construction in the advanced planning. Clearly, the circumstance pertaining to the development of the centre in Dundalk has changed, and this has resulted in a delay. I have no doubt that Deputy Adams and indeed the local community in Dundalk are disappointed by this, but the HSE has offered assurance that this is the correct strategic move for the long-term plan for care delivered in Dundalk. The HSE is following the requirement initially protocol to take into account the additional space required and hopes to have additional approvals submitted as appropriate in the coming months. At this stage, the timeline of the project would be laid out more precisely, and understand that the HSE has already indicated that this is happening to update the Deputy as appropriate. It is clearly unfortunate that changes in the status of this project has caused some confusion, and that the project will not only be delivered as originally scheduled because of the expansion to scope of this project. Nonetheless, I wish to assure the Deputy that it is still very much intention to develop a primary care centre in Dundalk, and the work is ongoing to deliver this project so that it can fulfil our vision of delivering better care close to people's homes in their local community.
Deputy Adams, Garwa Majugat.
Well, I take me to study your reply, but from listening intently to what you have had to say, you would be better saying, I don't know. I don't know when there is going to be a primary day care centre for Dundalk. I don't know when the young people of North Louth are going to have CAMs at a place closer to their homes and in their local community. And given that you're here just to read this out, the Minister obviously doesn't know. The HSE doesn't know. The Health Department doesn't know. Nobody knows. And that's been a mark of the frustrating process of letters and PQs and topical issues and all the other protocols that we use to try and get information. So I will be updated as appropriate in the time ahead. And in the meantime, citizens in this republic are denied the very essence of care. Vulnerable, particularly vulnerable young people, are denied the care that they need close to where they live. And the health professionals who work day and night are denied the facilities and the buildings and the resources that they require to do their jobs properly. And the communities. And it's no accident that there are many disadvantaged communities that give rise to these additional problems of mental health, particularly among our young people. So a short, I don't know answer, Minister, would have saved ink and paper.
Minister, 2 minutes.
Adams, and you took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to come back and say I don't know to the following questions that you gave me, so that's why I've taken notes on them, and I do intend to bring them to Minister Harris for maybe direct reply to you. But again, however, in relying back on the written word as I've been given, is apparent that confusion around the status of the projects has arisen because an intended timeline for delivery was amended to enable disability services to be provided from the centre in addition to the service originally identified. So it should be stressed that when the centre opens now, it will include primary care, mental health, disability services, and will be a real asset for all of the people in the dock, not only young people but older people as well. And I'm sorry again to Deputy Adams that I don't have the reply to the don't know questions in front of me, but however, I will inform Minister Harris that that Deputy Adams would like a more comprehensive reply, and which I will do when I go back up to his office. Thanks.